Let's dive into one of Jenkins' most powerful and honestly game-changing features, the multi-branch pipeline. If you're using Git, this is your ticket out of manual setup chaos. It's how you automate the build process for every single one of your branches. So let's get right into it.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the why, the big problem that this pipeline actually solves. Then, we'll jump in and create one from scratch. After that, we'll get into the super important topic of Jenkins credentials, learn how to really control which branches get built, and then we'll hit a little snag. We'll uncover that one crucial and very common final piece of the puzzle that's missing.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a problem that I'm betting a lot of you know all too well. It's that constant headache, right? The pain of having to manage a separate, manually configured Jenkins job for every single Git branch you're working on.
I mean, does this ring a bell? You spin up a new feature branch, and what's the next step? You got to go to Jenkins, create a new pipeline, then a teammate fixes a bug, pushes up a bug fix branch, and yep, you're back in Jenkins setting up yet another job. It's just so repetitive, it's easy to make mistakes, and it absolutely does not scale. There has to be a better way, right?
And of course there is. This is exactly where the multi-branch pipeline comes in. It's Jenkins' really elegant solution to this whole mess. It works by automatically discovering all the branches in your Git repository, and then, by reading a special instruction file that lives right there in your code, it creates pipeline jobs for them completely on the fly. So let's walk through how to get this initial setup done.
You know, the process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you'll go to New Item in Jenkins, but here's the key. Instead of picking a standard pipeline, you're going to choose Multi-Branch Pipeline. From there, it's really just about telling it where your code lives by adding a Git source, tweaking a few key details, and hitting save. Now, the first and most important step happens right here, under Branch Sources. This is where you're going to paste the clone URL for your Git repository. This one little field is what tells Jenkins, hey, this is the project I need you to keep an eye on for any new or updated branches.
But wait a second. You can't just point Jenkins at a private repository and expect it to magically work, right? It needs permission. It needs a key to get in. And that brings us to one of the most fundamental and critical concepts in Jenkins, credentials. So how do we deal with things like usernames, passwords, or API tokens securely? Well, Jenkins has this awesome, centralized system built just for this. And its whole purpose is to make sure you never, ever have to hard-code sensitive information directly into your pipelines. The best way to think about Jenkins credentials is like a secure vault or a password manager. You store your secrets in this vault just one time, and then you can just reference them from any job or pipeline that needs them. It's secure, it's way easier to manage, and it's a huge improvement over just scattering secrets all over your different configuration files. But here's the thing, not all credentials are created equal. Jenkins gives you different scopes, which are basically levels of visibility to control exactly who or what can access a specific secret. Let's break down the three main types you're going to run into. This table breaks it down perfectly. First, you've got system credentials. These are for the Jenkins server itself. Think admin level stuff. They're completely invisible to your pipelines. Then you have global credentials. These are like a master key. They can be seen and used by every single job on your entire Jenkins instance. And finally, we have project scope, which is the most secure option for what we're doing. It's like a single room key. It limits a credential so it's only visible inside the specific multi-branch pipeline where you create it. So this is the really crucial takeaway here. If you have a secret that's only for this one project's Git repository, you should almost always use the project scope. Why? Because it prevents other teams or other pipelines running on the same Jenkins server from even knowing that that credential exists. It is the principle of least privilege put into practice. And creating one is super simple. Right from inside your pipeline's configuration page, you could go to its own dedicated credential store. You just click Add, you choose the kind of secret you're adding, in our case, username with password for our Git repo, you fill in the details, and then you give it a unique ID. And that ID is absolutely crucial. Think of it as the unique name or the handle that you'll use later to tell Jenkins, hey, for this Git connection, go into your vault and grab the secret with this specific ID. So yeah, make it something descriptive. Okay, awesome. So now Jenkins can securely access our repository. But this kind of brings up a new question, doesn't it? Do we really want it to build every single branch it finds? That leads us perfectly into our next topic,
Mastering branch filtering. Yeah, the answer is probably not. You might have tons of temporary bug fix branches, or maybe some really experimental feature branches that you just don't need to run a full-blown CI process on for every single commit. It's just noise. And this is exactly where branch filtering comes in to save the day. Okay, so by default, Jenkins uses this really simple regular expression, a dot followed by a star. In the world of regex, this is like the wildcard of wildcards. It just means match any character any number of times. What that means in practice is it tells Jenkins to discover and try to build every single branch it can find, no exceptions. But we can be way more precise. Take a look at this expression. That vertical pipe character, that just means or. So what this regex is telling Jenkins is this. I'm only interested in the branch named exactly dev, or the branch named exactly master, or any branch that starts with the word feature followed by, well, anything else. And the effect of this is immediate and really powerful. Look at the difference. Before, with the default filter, Jenkins would scan and try to build everything it found. But with our new, more targeted filter, it just completely ignores that bug fix 123 branch. This saves you compute resources and cuts down on all the noise. This is how you really take control of your multi-branch setup.
Okay, we are so close. We've pointed Jenkins at our code, we've given it secure credentials to get in, and we've told it exactly which branches to pay attention to. Now it's time for that final piece of the puzzle. So, with everything configured just right, we get to the moment of truth. We go and we hit that Scan Multibranch Pipeline Now button, and we watch the log to see what happens. And at first, everything looks perfect. The log starts scrolling, and you can see Jenkins successfully connecting to our Git repository. Awesome. It correctly applies our filter, and it discovers our master, dev, and feature branches. It looks like a total success, until you get to that very last line. And then you see this message. Did not find Jenkinsfile in any of the branches. The scan finishes, but no jobs are created. Nothing gets built. So what went wrong? And this really gets to the heart of it all. We've perfectly configured the where to look and the which branches to scan. We told Jenkins which repository to check and which branches we care about. But we haven't actually told it what to do. What instructions is it supposed to be looking for inside those branches? What in the world is a Jenkins file? And that's exactly what we'll cover in our next explainer.
So, if you've ever been on a software team, you know the drill, right? You've got your main branch, your dev branch, and then a whole mess of feature branches popping up all the time. Trying to automate builds for every single one of them can be a huge headache. Well, that's exactly what the Jenkins Multibranch Pipeline is built to solve. Let's break it down. I mean, are you just tired of manually setting up a new build job every single time a teammate creates a new feature branch? It's so repetitive, it's easy to make mistakes, and honestly, it just doesn't scale. You end up spending way more time fighting with your CI tool than you do writing actual code.
But what if there was a better way? With the multi-branch pipeline, Jenkins can automatically discover every branch in your Git repository. And if it finds a special file in that branch, at Jenkinsfile, which we'll talk about later, it just automatically creates a pipeline job for it. No manual setup. This is an absolute game changer.
All right, enough talk. Let's get our hands dirty. We're going to jump right into the Jenkins dashboard and create our very first multi-branch pipeline job from scratch.
Okay, so here we go. On your Jenkins dashboard, you're going to click New Item. Give your pipeline a cool name, and then here's the most important part. For the project type, you have to select Multi-Branch Pipeline. Once you do that and hit OK, you're whisked away to the configuration page.
So you're in the config screen, you're ready to go, you're about to paste in your Git repository URL, and bam, you hit a wall. See, if your repository is private, Jenkins can't just barge in and take your code. It needs permission. It needs the key to the front door.
So that brings up a really fundamental question, right? How do you give Jenkins that permission without doing something crazy like hard-coding a password? Well, the answer is Jenkins credentials.
And before we do anything else, we have to get this right. Seriously, understanding how Jenkins handles credentials is the single most important piece of this puzzle. Get this right, and everything else becomes so much easier.
So Jenkins has this concept of scopes. Think of them like different security levels. System scope is super locked down. It's only for Jenkins's internal stuff. Your build jobs can't even see it. Global is, well, it's global. It's available to every single job. But project scope is my favorite. It lets you lock down a secret so it can only be used by one specific pipeline. Perfect for keeping things isolated.
Now, here's a super common point of confusion. So let's clear this up. Scope is not the same as type. Scope answers the question, where can I use this secret? But type answers a different question. What kind of secret is this? Is it a username and password? Is it a secret file? An SSH key? They're two different things that work together.
Okay, now that we're all experts on credentials, let's actually put them to use. We're going to head right back into our pipeline configuration and finally connect that Git repo.
So back in that config screen, you go to branch sources and paste in your Git URL. And now that credentials dropdown should make a whole lot more sense. You just pick the one you created, hit save, and just like that, Jenkins has the keys to the kingdom.
And this is where the magic really starts. The second you hit save, Jenkins kicks off its first scan. It reaches out to your repository and starts looking for every single branch it can find. This is that automation we were talking about, happening right before your eyes. But, finding every branch might not be what you want. You probably have old, stale branches you don't care about. So right now, our pipeline is kind of like a blunt instrument. Let's fine-tune it. Let's turn it into a surgical tool that only builds exactly what we want it to.
By default, Jenkins uses this little regular expression, .star. If you're familiar with regex, you know that basically means match anything and everything. So out of the box, it's going to find and try to build every single branch in your repo. But we can get way smarter. By changing that filter to a more specific Java regular expression like this one, we're giving Jenkins new instructions. We're telling it, hey, I only want you to pay attention to branches named dev, master, or any branch that starts with feature slash.
And here's what that looks like in practice. With our new rule, master gets a check, dev gets a check. A branch like features/new login, yep, that gets a check too. But some random bug fix/hotfix123 branch, nope, Jenkins completely ignores it. We now have total control. Beautiful.
So this is awesome. We did it. We created the job, we handled the credentials, and we told Jenkins exactly which branches to look for. And if you check the logs, it's working. It's finding our master, dev, and feature branches. So we're done, right?
Well, not so fast. If you look closely at the output, you'll notice something weird. Jenkins found the branches, but then it just stopped. It didn't actually run a build. The scan worked, but nothing else happened. So what are we missing?
Here's the last crucial piece of the puzzle. Jenkins knows which branches to look at, but it has no idea what to do with them. It's like we gave it a list of ingredients, but no recipe. It needs instructions inside each branch to tell it how to actually build and test your code.
And that recipe, that set of instructions, is the Jenkins file. It's just a text file that you check into your own source code, and it defines your entire pipeline. It is the brains of the whole operation. So now that you know the why and the where, the next step is the how. And figuring out how to write that Jenkins file, well, that's where the real power is. And it's exactly what we'll dive into now.